if you're wondering why I have so many credit cards or why I'm talking about credit cards on a military real estate investing channel, let me tell you a little story about one of my Marines. And then I'll also give you some of the critical steps that I have been taking over the past decade, basically, that have made credit cards and the strategy I use with them incredibly beneficial for me and giving me the ability to take a lot of vacations and travel for almost free. And I'm not saying that to be like all buzzword and clickbait for you. Like honestly, over the past decade, a lot of my travel has been either partially or almost completely covered by points, miles, companion certificates, free nights, and even like credit card bonus points. It's been awesome. It's completely changed my lifestyle, and it gave me a better lifestyle than I would have normally been able to afford earlier on in my military career. But first, again, let me kick it off with a story about one of my Marines. So here's the story. When I was stationed in Miramar, I had one of my Marines that I was working with in the same office. He was a master sergeant, not gonna name his name. He had some financial issues and I didn't really know about them. I could always tell there was a little bit of stress when he was planning on, doing his next PCS, going to his new duty station, figuring out what his housing situation was. He had a family. There were some financial stressors just in how he was talking about that upcoming process. And so, slowly but surely I got to know him better and I started digging in. And one day I told him about my awesome credit card situation and how I was going to get to go on a trip for free. And he was like, "Sir, tell me a little bit more about that." And I was like, "Okay," kind of gave him the scoop. Next day, he came in and he's like, "Sir, my life has changed." I'm like, "What happened?" He's like, "I did exactly what you said. I called up American Express and a couple of the other credit card companies and I got close to $30,000 returned to me." And I was like, "What do you mean? What?" And he showed me his credit card statements. He opened up his American Express. He had a bunch of American Expresses that he had been collecting over the past, I think it was like 18 years. Day one, since he was in the Marine Corps, he started like jacking up his credit cards. He started racking up a big bill on all of them, little by little, collecting them and then racking up the bill. And what ended up happening was they were all collectively close to $30,000 in debt, all those credit cards, right? What he did is that he just started accepting that as a monthly payment. Whatever he had to pay on those credit cards, he had long since paid off that principal. The principal balance that he accrued on those had been paid off for probably years by then. But the issue is because of the high interest rates, somewhere 18, 20, 25% on some of these, what ended up happening is that the remaining balance that he was in debt on was basically just all of the interest that he accrued over that time, which was really sad if you think about it. So when I told him about this, he called American Express and a couple of the other companies. And what ended up happening was he applied for the Service Member Civil Relief Act. And they essentially gave him back a lot of that interest. And here's why. Because of that act, they were able to decrease his interest rate to 6% over the past 18 years. So the delta between, let's say, 25% and 6%, that difference, they were able to give all back to him over the past 18 years. And so basically he got more money back than he was even in debt on. Some of his cards ended up having a positive balance or negative, but you know what I mean. Some of his cards ended up having a surplus balance. So he actually had the ability to spend money on those cards without it even actually being a balance against him because of how much American Express kicked back to him. His entire demeanor changed. His entire outlook on life changed. And I didn't even realize how much this was affecting him. Everything thanks to a single conversation. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but educating him on something without even realizing I was opening a door into a huge issue that he was going to fix. He then made a couple of calls and everything changed. Now, using that story as a segue, I'm going to get into the steps that I have been taking and somewhat continue taking regularly to ensure that I can travel for almost free with my family. We love to travel, and let me just break it down right now. But first, a little disclaimer here. This is A, not financial advice, and B, I cannot guarantee that you're gonna get the same results. Think of this as just me telling you about my experience, and then please do your own due diligence and do some research and try to accomplish the same or even greater results than I did. I'm not telling you to do it, I'm just sharing. This is not advice, so please bear with me. Back when I was in flight school, two things were going on. A, I was dating my now wife, and B, I was trying to figure out how I can go see her more, and I realized that I needed to make more money. Why? Because she was in France studying winemaking, and I was in Pensacola, Florida, and I was a second lieutenant, and that didn't exactly give me enough money to go see my family when I needed to, have fun in Pensacola, and go visit her in France and Ukraine several times a year. Financially, I just wasn't in a place where I could afford that, so I needed to get creative. I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and I knew that real estate was going to be my golden goose and how I structure all of my financial strategy and wealth building. It would be around real estate. However, I knew that if I was going to do it the way I wanted to, the right way for me, which would be cash flow and buy and hold investing, it was going to take a little bit of time. It wasn't going to happen overnight because I needed it to be relatively passive. I needed to be able to focus on my military career and my day job basically without it hindering my real estate investing, and then vice versa. I didn't want my real estate investing to hinder my military career. So I wanted to be able to do both of them at the same time, still have fun, and still, have a life basically. And as I mentioned before, she was excruciatingly far away from me. This was long distance to the max, Pensacola to France. And even after she had immigrated to the United States, we still loved to travel. And so I continued on with this strategy, and we continued doing the things I'm about to tell you because it continued helping pay for our travels. The biggest example I can give you is when we went on our baby moon, and I'm saying baby moon because we had to skip our honeymoon because of all the immigration stuff. By the time we were able to go on a honeymoon, we were already pregnant. We went to Santorini, Athens, and Mykonos almost completely for free. The flights for free, most of the hotels for free, had to pay for some of the food, but for the most part, for the kind of amazing vacation we got to take, it was essentially free, thanks to the credit card strategy and all the bonus points that I had up until then. All right, so here finally are the steps. Step number 1, do not go into debt that you cannot pay off that billing cycle. These credit cards are not free money. This is just an extension of your debit card or your checking account, essentially, right? What you have in your checking account should be able to pay off your credit card. No questions asked. Again, none of this is advice, but this is how I did it, and I strongly caution you against going into debt that you cannot pay off basically immediately. Step number 2, make sure that you're not changing your spending habits. Just change how you channel and where you channel your spending to, which credit card pays for what. And I'll explain that later here as well. Step number 3, initially only focus on credit cards that will have sizable sign-up bonuses. These bonuses are the secret ingredient after all, because they're really not that hard to get. And if you channel all your expenses to one card and you focus on getting that card's bonus, you can do this pretty effectively. Sometimes they're as simple as, hey, spend $3,000 in 4 months or $4,000 in 3 months or something like that. Now, if you're super frugal and you don't think that you're gonna be able to rack up a $4,000 credit card bill in 3 months because your groceries, gas, restaurants, movies, activities, what have you, just will not add up to $4,000 in 3 months, that's fine, and I commend you for being that frugal. But what I do recommend doing then is just getting creative. Like you can talk to your family members and see, hey, do you guys have any big expenses coming up? Would you mind if I pay for it and then you pay me back via Venmo or whatever? Or you can also just, when you guys are getting together as friends for a movie or pizza or whatever, you could just, again, ask your friends, hey, you mind if I pay for all of this? Trying to get a bonus here. And then you can teach them something cool. So whatever, that's how you can accomplish making this happen. Just have people pay you back on the back end. Boom. If you really try, I guarantee you'll be able to hit these bonuses without changing your budgeted spending habits as an individual. It's all about creativity. Step number 4, the credit cards you get, focus on getting those that you are relatively certain you can get the annual fees waived. For example, American Express is a pioneer in this, and they are great. If you call them and you say, hey, I would like to apply for the Service Member Civil Relief Act or the Military Lending Act, from what I have gathered, 9 times out of 10, it should work out for you. Now, again, don't take my word for it. Do your own due diligence and try to make this happen. Maybe get a less expensive card your first go round and see how it works out. But even Chase, I've heard, is becoming a little bit more flexible with this, especially if you mention the Military Lending Act, and especially if you were a Chase member prior to the military. There's all sorts of little caveats. Again, this world changes very quickly and a lot, so I would just say do your own due diligence and kind of toe dip into this step by step and see what you can accomplish. Now, the reason why these last 2 points were so important, and they're very important in conjunction with each other, is because the bonuses, like I said, are kind of a secret sauce here. One of my credit cards, I remember getting 100,000 points. And then when I used the portal for that company, which happened to be Chase, to buy my travel with, I was able to increase the value of those points by 50%. So it was really like 150,000 points. I think that was what paid for 2 of my plane tickets for me and my wife to go on our baby moon to Greece and back. So you can imagine if you keep racking up bonuses, you'll end up with hundreds of thousands of points. And that is how the magic starts happening. Step number 5, do some research and make a decision on what cards you want. I recommend having a favorite airline and a favorite hotel and a favorite kind of like gas and groceries one, and maybe even a favorite restaurant one. Make it easy on yourself in the first days and just compartmentalize, like get one card for one specific type of spending so it's easy for you to differentiate which one is for which. I know American Express has partnerships with Delta and Bonvoy Marriott and Hilton, so that really makes it easy on you there. Step 6, if you have friends and family that want to get into this as well, start referring cards to each other. Take turns, refer cards to each other, because they will give you sometimes 15, sometimes 20,000 point bonuses for doing that. You can't afford not to. Step number 7, and this is kind of the second layer to this strategy, is you've got to get strategic with your everyday spending. I mentioned this earlier, kind of compartmentalize the cards. Make sure you have something for just gas and groceries. American Express always has a good deal for a card that is specifically for groceries and gas. Also get one that's good for restaurants. I have one that gives me triple the points for any restaurants I go to. So when I go to restaurants, I only spend it with that card. As you can imagine, if the entire year you are channeling your expenses to specific cards without changing your spending habits, and they multiply the points you get on those cards, by the end of the year, you will probably have a very sizable amount of points that will probably be able to pay for a very nice vacation for you and your family. I know that because I have done that many times. Step 8, if you focus on the bonuses first, for the first several years, you'll be able to basically rack up all the points you need with just those bonuses. But then you're gonna have to get really good at what I was describing in the previous point. You have to get good at the strategy of your everyday spending. Focus on bonuses first and referrals, and then move into kind of ease into this daily spending strategy. And at the beginning, if you can also manage doing some strategic daily spending, again, not changing your spending habits, just where you're spending your money on, like which credit card you're using, you might even be able to accelerate the rate of your point accrual faster. But really, the main objective early on is to just get those bonuses on the cards. So even if a card doesn't give you good restaurant points, it doesn't matter. What you're trying to do is you're trying to hit that bonus as quickly as possible. Now, my all-time favorite card that I want to share with y'all is the Chase Sapphire Reserve card. I don't get any perks or benefits for talking about this on this video. I just wanted to share that with y'all because I have slowly over the past decade gotten less and less strict with myself on my own strategy. I've kind of found that this card is kind of the ultimate travel card, and so I kind of just spend everything on it, because every single point that I do get, if I then book travel through the Chase Ultimate Rewards portal, I'll get 50% extra. If I have 100,000 points, which is worth about $1,000, they'll actually let me book travel for $1,500. That's a big deal. Not to mention restaurant and travel expenses all get triple the points anyway. So really what happens is every dollar you spend on restaurants and travel on this card turns into 4.5 cents in rewards. So you basically get almost 5% return on every dollar. That's a lot. All right, I know that was a long video. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. I know this isn't directly real estate related, but as a real estate investor, I'm doing this because I want to have more time with my family and I want to have a better lifestyle through the cash flow I generate. And I got really impatient and I wanted to figure out how to get there sooner. So I got really smart with my credit cards. And I wanted to share that with everybody because I think it's a great strategy to follow. It also, guess what, helps your credit score. A lot of times when I talk about this strategy, people are like, well, isn't it going to affect my credit score? Here's the thing. The most important thing is just download like Credit Karma. It isn't perfect, or some other credit monitoring app, and just monitor all the criteria that affect your credit score the most and make sure you don't screw those up. With credit cards, the important thing is never miss a payment and make sure that your credit utilization rate is always low. So basically, if you have a $20,000 credit line on a credit card, don't put $15,000 on it. your credit utilization should always be low. And if you have 10 cards and they all have $20,000 limits on them, that means you wield a $200,000 credit line in your name essentially across those 10 cards. And then what you can do is just make sure you only spend, I don't know, if your monthly spending ends up being like $3,000 or $4,000, that means your credit utilization really never goes over 1 to 2% of your total credit limit. So you're good. Just monitor that, use an app, be smart about it, and you'll be fine. Again, not financial advice. This is me talking about my experience and how I think others can benefit from it. Thank you so much. This is Mark Yancich with Active Duty Passive Income. If you like what you saw, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. Comment below if you have any other questions. I'll be sure to reply to them. And also just visit our Facebook group where we talk about everything real estate related and everything around real estate. And the quick link for that is militaryrealestateinvesting.com. And our main website is activedutypassiveincome.com. Thanks again. Take care.